Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to our PAX Unplugged 2025 recap special. Matt, Sarah, and I all went to PAX Unplugged. We got to play some things, and we're here to talk about it.
Yep. Lots of love to our producer, Sarah, who spent most of the weekend just solving puzzles, which, is legit and to be expected. And so her favorite thing was probably the puzzles.
They're very, very good puzzles.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you're handed a manila envelope and they say, bring this back by 4 p.m. on the last day. Good luck. I have several groups of friends who all were all in on it this year and were just obsessing over it the whole weekend.
The puzzle hunt itself is kind of a collaborative effort between two different puzzle-making groups, the Cooperatives and Lockwood Immersive. There was a whole corner where they were also doing escape rooms as well. This was their second year doing it. They did one last year as well. They are themed together. There are 10 puzzles that are those sorts where you look at the sheet and you kind of have to read the puzzle to determine what the puzzle you're supposed to be solving is. And then once you solve that, there's a further piece of it that is a clue towards an 11th meta puzzle. Using all of those pieces together, and some of this involved battleship-style Sudoku, like placing something. Some of it involved cutting up the paper into kind of crosswords that you needed to form into new word searches. Finally, ending in a pseudo Rubik's Cube kind of motion that you had to do with all of your clues to get to the final answer of what you needed to do. And then you head back to the booth there, let them know. Last year it was a combination to open up a lock. This time it was getting you to a final escape room that they ran you through in order to get the final piece that you needed to complete the puzzle. And all of this is to basically the tangible reward you get is a raffle ticket for a bunch of really cool board games that a lot of the booths at PAX Unplugged had donated. The real reward was the puzzles we solved along the way because it was a lot of fun.
I'm sure. Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I mean, I've said on this podcast before that I am a dum-dum, and so solving puzzles like that are a challenge on a good day, but also there'd be occasions where someone would pull out a page and go, I need help with this. And I'd look over their shoulder and go, nope, I'm out. Glancing at the page, I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on here. This is meant for others beyond me.
Well, that's something I enjoyed about it in that, not necessarily that it made you struggle. That's not what I'm enjoying. What I enjoy is that it is sort of a, which of these puzzles is for me or not for me. A single person could sit down with it and over the course of the weekend, plug their way through it. There are definitely people that have the sort of mind experience, whatever, that they could just rock the whole thing. PAX Unplugged for me and for Sarah is probably our most personally social PAX. I mean, anytime we go to East or West, there's tons of friends, tons of folks, and tons of collaborators and fellow podcasters and journalists. But PAX Unplugged in Philly is where a lot of friends are. And so a lot of friends are also part of the puzzle hunt. And so kind of going, okay, who's the sort of person who thinks entirely in puns? You, look at this one. Who does nothing but Sudoku? You do this one. And you can look at it and kind of the way that you're like, that's not working for me. Sometimes you could look at a puzzle and go, me yesterday couldn't do it, but me right now, I'm thinking like this. Let's go. There's a great reward in that. Like in Blueprints, you have to sometimes find that there is a puzzle to solve. And that already is rewarding. And this sort of positive feedback loop of solve to solve to solve. And this is just one aspect of what we did the weekend of PAX Unplugged.
Yes. And actually, I'm glad you brought up friendship and the social nature of it, because I also at PAX Unplugged spend more time with friends local in the area than I do kind of schmoozing or doing interviews and stuff.
Right.
Part of that is because there are less video game related things to talk about on this show floor versus others. But also part of it is Geoff and I have maintained some pretty incredible relationships with PR reps for some of the larger board game companies and chatting with them about future work versus necessarily interviewing them about the current work, which has also been really great. Before we get to that, I have to shout out Katie and Rob, who let me stay with them again in Philly. I adore the two of them. And it's social for me too in a different way. Like at PAX East or West, I feel like between appointments, if I'm just looking for stuff, I don't mind sauntering up to a booth and just kind of chatting with a dev, seeing what a game is about. Usually it's a very solo experience. There are community and multiplayer games that you can jump in on also, but for the most part, most of the demos are meant to be a single player experience. That feels more comfortable just kind of rolling up by myself. But like wandering the PAX Unplugged floor, most of the board games have a minimum of 4 players. There are one-on-one stations as well where someone will demo it with you. But for the most part, larger groups are the predominant factor. And it feels a little weird rolling up by yourself and trying to join a game with a bunch of strangers. You can, and people are very open, but it feels weirder for me. And so I
Right.
roll with 3 or 4 other friends to a board game. I'll talk about my favorite board game of the show later and how that experience was, but it was even more fun because I rolled up with 3 friends and we played together and how the mechanics worked while we worked well together because we played a lot of board games together. But I like that aspect of this convention, that it's kind of a different animal. For example, I got to play Daggerheart, which was a tabletop system that I'd never engaged with before. Friends of mine had an appointment and I was able to join in with them, and we played with 3 or 4 other people we didn't know. And had to immediately, we were thrust into, I think, the beginning of Act 2 of whatever their module is, to like just do a combat. We're adventuring party together who's known each other well. And immediately these strangers start role playing heavy. And I'm like, okay, we're in good hands. Then we just kind of all go for it. There's nothing off limits. We have a lot of fun. The DM who's running the module is a lot of fun. And I love that experience. Like the communal experiences at the video game conventions, I feel like are more communities we already know or people we meet through a community we already know, but it's a lot of hanging out with and spending time with people we've already met and occasionally engaging with new people that we've not met through those branches. Whereas Unplugged feels more like a space where you are encouraged to meet a stranger and become friendly with them because that's how you engage in these games. And I think that's a really cool dichotomy to the stuff we've been used to in the past when covering these conventions.
Yeah, absolutely. You've definitely hit the nail on the head about it is so much easier to kind of go feral at a video game convention as a journalist, as a singular individual, to have that kind of roll up to a thing. If a video game is multiplayer, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Probably in the same way that if a board game, card game, tabletop game is a solo game, which is not unheard of. There was more than a few solo games at something like PAX Unplugged. There's tons of journaling games that are super cool.
Yeah. And I think that what's interesting about PAX Unplugged from a standpoint of trying to understand the mechanics of it and engaging with the stuff that's there is that there is a huge variety of things that I feel like genre defining is just so different for board games versus video games.
Right.
Especially considering board games are tabletop games, board games are pen and paper RPGs, board games are card games, Euro games, all sorts of different things. Whereas like a video game is a video game. It's a digital game that you are playing, whether on a physical cartridge or disc or not. It is a digital thing that can take many shapes as well. But I
Right.
feel like the broadness of what even is considered tabletop gaming and board gaming feels way broader to me in a really good way. I mean, I should also mention that I chose to engage in something I thought I'd closed my heart off to this past weekend back at my friend Brendan's wedding. Brendan Groom from Past Controller, shout out. I went to his wedding a couple months ago, and on one of the down nights, it was raining out. We couldn't really go out or do anything as a group, and we were hanging out in the clubhouse that was at the hotel we were staying at. And a bunch of us decided to play Commander together, which is a format of Magic, if those who are not aware, where you have a deck, 100 cards, and a commander that a lot of your mechanics are funneled through or working towards. And they've done a bunch of sets, Final Fantasy, Doctor Who, a bunch of different things. And I had not played that format. I played the classic Magic format back in the day.
The gathering of it all.
The Gathering. And so I wanted to be a part of this, and I liked Magic, so I figured I'd play. I played with my Titus deck from Final Fantasy.
I thought for a second you said your tightest deck, and I'm like,
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
No, I do not ascribe to Titus. I refuse. You're wrong, Kingdom Hearts. Anyway, I really had a good time. It was a lot of fun. We played a 3-way match, and it was a blast. And so I was like, I want to. And with Commander being pre-con decks, you can use boosters to adjust them, but they come out of the box playable and mechanically functional. I was like, all right, next chance I get, I'm going to buy one of those decks, and I'm going to start playing Magic again, at least when I see my friends every so often. And so while I was in Philly visiting friends, my friend Katie works for a hobby shop, and they sell Commander decks, and they had the 13th Doctor Commander deck, Jodie Whittaker, who I adore.
Yeah.
And so I bought that. And since have also bought sleeves for the deck, a custom commander box that holds my counters and dice and my life counter, all that to lead to that same weekend, the Avatar set was out and in the public for Magic. They had the cabbage stand, which was incredible. And they were also running playthroughs where you could get they do these new booster sets where it's basically 20 cards and it's half a deck. And if you get a second box of that same starter booster, you get a full deck.
Oh.
And so it's like, all right, on the last day, I was like, all right, I'm by myself. I'll play around in Magic. I know how to play. Got paired with a gentleman who also knew how to play. And so we abandoned the script book that they give you halfway through and just doing whatever we wanted. I lost, so be it. And then when I was done, I got a deck. And I was like, oh, so 20 more cards, I can make a deck. And then I'll have 2 Magic decks because my old decks are MIA. I don't know what happened to them. I wandered for a bit and then I went back to their booth. I was like, hey, do you know anyone selling another one of these boosters? I'd like to have a full deck. And the person running the booth went, hold on a sec, and gave me a second one. He's like, it's supposed to be one per customer. It's the last day. Now you have a full deck. Enjoy. So now I have one of the Avatar decks as well, which is not Commander, just a 40-card free play deck. But I can feel the pull. I will not be buying boosters. I will not spend $1 on boosters. I don't want shoeboxes full of cards. But I may become a Commander deck sicko because they come basically ready to go and I don't have to modify them. I can modify them. Also, apparently, shout out to John Carson, who did a side quest actually on MTG Arena for us.
Yeah.
John Carson said it's actually more cost effective now, instead of buying boxes or booster boxes, to just buy the specific cards you want. It'll run you more money per card, but ultimately, if say your deck only needs like 20 or 30 cards to modify it or whatever, it's still going to be cheaper than buying several boxes to randomly draw those cards. And most of the time, you won't even need to buy that many single cards to make that next level deck. You can usually do it pretty easily. And so that said, I probably will go down that route because I just don't, at this current stage of my life, have room for shoeboxes full of Magic cards again.
Now, I do mean this mostly seriously. How much do you want me and any listener here to hold you accountable for not buying booster packs?
Oh, fully. I will not be spending $1 on booster packs. Yeah.
Again, as somebody who is very adamantly against gacha games because I have gone down that rabbit hole, and I can hear the justifications and the caveats going on here. And not that I think this is going to be a bad thing, but just like, you're absolutely right. Magic the Gathering especially is alluring because it is good design. Yeah. Perfect, who cares? It's good. It's damned good. And over the years, however you felt about it, there have been some cool sets. There have been some great mechanics. They are always trying to evolve and iterate on what they have. And so it's always exciting as well, which can get very, very expensive very quickly if you're somebody who needs everything.
Yeah, I refuse to go down that route. That said, like, they do secret lair launches also that are just like boosters and card packs that aren't Commander format, but you can build Commander legal decks from those using a card as your Commander. And like, I do know people modding Knuckles decks or a Venom deck from the Spider-Man launch. And so like, maybe if there's a pre-con deck made by a fan who's selling it for a decent price, I'll investigate that because I know that's a thing that exists too. We'll see. It is nice to dip my toe in again. I mean, I did just buy a Commander deck, and I guess the earliest I will see those friends that I can play Commander with is PAX East next year. But that said, I am excited to jump back in, and it was fun to see. Well, first of all, it was fun to see the cabbage cart at PAX Unplugged because there were several, and I mean several people, cosplaying as the cabbage seller who got to pose with the cart, which I think, like, they didn't hire anybody. They just assumed there would be some. And
wait,
they were
what?
correct.
Every time I passed by, somebody was posing there.
I mean, I could be wrong. I've done less than zero research on this, but we're going to go with this hunch that I'm correct because there wasn't always someone there.
Well, I mean, the cosplayers take breaks.
That's true. That is true. But yeah, so I mean, that was really fun to kind of rediscover that part of myself that, like, I've always liked and I've always enjoyed Magic, but like, after the fire and losing my decks, which are either in a box in the basement somewhere in storage or they're actually gone, like, it's nice to have a new deck that I can play with friends because Commander format is so easy to just plug and play because all the Commander decks are designed to work well against each other. Some are better than others, but whether it's Fallout, Final Fantasy, Doctor Who, it doesn't matter. They can all play against each other and intermingle, which I think is the most fun part. You don't have to stick to genre or franchise. You can just play. All of them are legal Magic cards. You could totally destroy your commander deck and just make a 60-card Doctor Who deck for regular play as well, which I think is fantastic.
That is something fun about it. I mean, we admire games that allow with a few pieces to play in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And Magic the Gathering, Matt, you and I certainly came at it first through constructed decks, which was what it was for the longest time. And they've been making new formats, and people are always able to come up with new things. I mean, look, the amount of kids who have Pokemon cards who have never played the Pokemon video games, and some of whom can't even read, but just like having pictures of their Pokemon. There's a lot of ways to have fun with some cardboard on this. And so it's cool that there's a lot of different ways to approach it that don't necessitate owning everything.
For sure. Before we start to get into some of our favorite stuff, I do want to shout out, of course, Courtney over at Kess, who, again, we had a wonderful appointment with and chatted about, for one, their new game that is not released yet. There's no release date yet, but they were showing off pieces and the board for their new One Piece game. Their full-size, pandemic-style board game where it's you versus the boss. It's co-op. It looks awesome. It's got beautifully printed pieces. None of them were like the final version. They're still working through it. There's, I think, an announcement coming early next year about timelines, dates, and release, and that's really exciting. I mean, I loved the Bento Box game that we played, and I have almost no touch point for One Piece. I've seen a couple episodes. I know the characters, but I don't really watch it. And one of my favorite things is about Kess, and they're doing something that Fantasy Flight did for many years as well, is they are taking licenses and translating them into games appropriate for that license, but that don't isolate or alienate people who don't know the license. And I love that about their stuff. And this is no different. This new One Piece game looks awesome and is very exciting that it's co-op. That, again, would lead me to want to try it or play it even with less One Piece experience.
It's licensed adaptations that your knowledge enriches the experience. It's not necessary. And I do enjoy that. Again, what I do know of One Piece, it's been a very long time since I was regularly keeping up with it. But I do know enough of the gist of how it feels that the fact that Bento Panic is chaos amongst the crew, and then this new game is cooperation in the face of an adversary, both feel very true to One Piece. And you've got to work with your crew on these things, even if it gets a little weird, especially if it gets a little weird.
Yeah. I think that their design ethos is pretty brilliant. I've always enjoyed their games. I have yet to play one of their games where I've had a bad time. There's some I like more than others. And we did actually get a press copy of a game that I'm excited to hear you report back on, because they made a Tamagotchi competitive pet raising game, which is just such a smart idea.
It's a cozy game, and it's a bit of like resource management. I have yet to play it with people. I have a board game night actually tonight. So it's either that or the other game that we received a press copy of that I'm going to inflict on some friends tonight. But from the looks of it, the art is great, which has never been a problem with Kess. And as time has gone on, they've gotten to have more and more fun and freedom with their own art assets as well. And in the same way that some video game adaptations of board games I enjoy because it allows cards and pieces to do things they can't do in real life, or I don't have to do the bookkeeping. The fact that you're taking your turns, there's no timer going, and you're kind of working together with things actually feels less stressful than what I remember of actually having a Tamagotchi when I was in 5th grade. The same idea of, I think I would play an Animal Crossing board game way faster than I would actually play Animal Crossing. There's certain time-based stress things about taking care of stuff. I don't have kids. Like, this is something to keep in mind.
Yeah, you'll have to report back on that. But I'm excited that we got that and got to see it. And I think before we move on to the other coverage that we did, which was Pokemon related, and we'll get to that in a minute, I would love for you to elaborate on what you teased when we went over to the Jason Anarchy booth. Shout out to Jason Anarchy, and the press copy of what we received.
Oh, we got Trombone Champ. Look, I don't talk about Trombone Champ all the time. I've never stopped loving Trombone Champ as a game. Holy Wow made a hell of a game, let me tell you. Finding out that they were making a card game, questions arise. Like, what are you doing? How do you capture the wacky elements of Trombone Champ? Are there more truly true, absolutely factual trombone facts in this game? And to that, I can say, yes, there is. The card game is about playing through songs with the same level of care for music theory and expression that the digital game has. This one's going to be a little harder, I think, to convince friends to just be like, want to play a trombone game with me? I think like one or two of them. It plays up to 4 people, so I think I might get a quick round out of this. I've learned the rules. It looks like it's going to be a nice quick game. There is a baboon token, and there are hot dogs.
What else do you need?
What else do you need? I was reading out some of the trombone facts to some friends who are also musicians, and all of us are just like, yeah, this is absolutely true. This is really moving education forward. So if nothing else, I'm having a lot of fun with the game, just learning about trombones and music. Getting my music degree, I never got any of this. So thank you, Jason Anarchy.
I'm so glad that you're going to get to play that game. I can't wait to hear about it. And I can foresee in the year of 2026, maybe some Patreon content or stream having to do with us playing this game.
Oh, yeah. This is being inflicted on you. You can bring your commander deck to PAX. I'm bringing my trombone deck.
That I'm so glad that we got that. Shout out to Jason Anarchy Games for giving us a press
Thank
copy
you so much.
before release, pre-release, which is huge. Geoff has promised to produce something with it, whether it's an article, a stream, or whatever. But I look forward to more of that as that comes in the nearest future. And we have chatted with Jason. Jason will be coming on the podcast down the line to talk about the development of this game, and so we can look forward to that. Our second appointment was with Ultra Pro, which is, one of the biggest names in board games specifically. They've done tons of stuff, especially cards as well. They do a lot of stuff with Magic the Gathering. They had a timed challenge where they wanted you to see how fast you could sleeve cards, which I refused to do because I know I'm very slow at it. Geoff did it.
I won card protectors.
Look, that's great. Now you've card protectors for your Trombone Champ cards.
Exactly. This is very important. It's all coming together.
But we did have an appointment with Richard Drakis over at Ultra Pro. Thank you, Richard, for chatting with us. We talked about the new Pokemon Trivia Trainer game. It's an electronic game that is timed out, and there are 2 modes, an easy mode and a hard mode. Essentially, there are 11 questions, and the AI, the good kind of AI, the mechanical programmatic AI, will ask questions about a Pokemon with the broadest question starting and then going down the line, like, this Pokemon is a ground type Pokemon. This Pokemon, hangs out in this region. This Pokemon has these variants or that evolution. And when you answer, you get a certain amount of points. And obviously, if it goes all the way down the line, making it easier. The board, I believe, is separated. Is it separated by type, the easy side? Or is it just in order? I'm pretty sure it was in order, like of the 101.
It does have the original 151.
And 151.
Hearing that was a definite oh, thank goodness. I still play Pokemon, but this is even playing field, parents and children. And we were talking about with Richard, and it's that kind of thing of I don't know about some parents or things like that. Maybe they don't. It's like, hey, consider people who have video game age children now. I have friends who have, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds now, and they're around 40. And we were around 10 years old when Pokemon Red and Blue hit American shores. So yeah, no, it's there for everyone. Kids learning it for the first time and adults trying to remember after 30 years, level playing field. I think the board was a sort of, I don't want to say by color.
Oh, maybe it was by color or by type. What I do know is that the hard mode on the other side is they are not organized in any way, not in number order, not in typing. And so it's much harder to find because the way you win is obviously you have to put your dial on the correct Pokemon, hit the answer, then it answers, and whoever got it right gets it.
It's a bit of honor system. It's not the sort of AI that's like a chat bot. Again, fully reiterating on this, it's just sort of randomizing what's in its database. And so you kind of have to go, I know it on this one. So of course you can cheese the system, but you're really only cheating yourself.
Yeah, it's a really cool feature. We, of course, weren't able to play it on the show floor. It was too loud and the speaker wasn't working great. But, of course, Ultra Pro, known for the Pokemon TCG and Magic the Gathering stuff that they do is D&D stuff. They have their hands in a lot of tabletop gaming. But for them to also be working they've been working with licenses for ages, but to be making their own Pokemon game, of which they've made several that are family friendly, kind of for the whole family to play, is a lot of fun. And we did chat with Richard for quite some time also just about the nature of gaming and the problem with generative AI in board games and tabletop. And it was a really great conversation. It was one of those conversations where we could have recorded it, but it was kind of a back and forth. We were trying to get the demo of the game, but it was just nice to chat with someone who seemed excited about these licensed kids games. It's not just for kids, that it's for all ages, and that he shared with us a lot of information about his son and growing up raising a nerdy son and all of that stuff. And it just reminds us that some people get into this industry because they want to make money, so be it. But there are also tons of people get into this industry and are a part of it because they grow up loving this stuff and now they want to make this stuff. And that's the kind of vibe I got from Richard, and the stuff that they're doing over at Ultra Pro. Again, giant company, you can kind of expect, oh, maybe they are kind of like just doing their thing, but it seems like they really are proud of the work they're doing and really wrapped up in why it's important to make stuff like this and kind of spread this joy of tabletop gaming, whether it's through licensed branded stuff or other stuff.
There's such a funny back and forth when it comes to licensing in board games, card games, TTRPGs, where much like indie video games, the people who go into making this stuff aren't necessarily going into it with a get-rich-quick scheme, or this is going to be their route to millions and tons of fans and fame and fortune. But there is also a little bit of designing within all of these licenses and all of these ideas to kind of draw people in, because you got to eat. And so whether it is something like the different Pokemon games that are going on with Ultra Pro, or what Kess has going on, Jason Anarchy, something I picked up over the weekend at PAX Unplugged was something at Exalted Funeral, who does a lot of cool TTRPGs, something system agnostic, whatever else. They last year were debuting a Monty Python tabletop game. Monty Python's co-curricular medieval reenactment program, which is basically their version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail without it being playing through the movie. It's trying to take a medieval fantasy game and taking your very serious characters and putting them into absurd situations, which is what the comedy of Monty Python is. They also have a dice catapult game that is also kind of backgammon called Fetch a la Vache. I got it because it was all on sale, but I have started looking through it, and by gum, they've done a really good job of sticking to the feeling of the source material. That's, in general, something that I really enjoy about seeing new things at PAX Unplugged is the level of passion and deep esoteric knowledge that goes into things. Again, playing a One Piece game from Kess, you don't have to know One Piece, but you're rewarded for doing so. I imagine people who don't know Monty Python could play this game, but I think I'm going to enjoy myself a great deal with it. That kind of balance is so fascinating to see.
Yeah, totally. While we're talking about purchases, I did buy a board game sight unseen as well, because without playing, because I did see it, so I guess it can't be sight unseen. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was a board game I saw that, as a New Yorker, as a Brooklynite, I could not buy. So it's called Expect Delays. The PAX Unplugged version also came with a little model train that you could build with the PAX Unplugged logo on it, which I will try and remember to post in the Discord when this episode comes out. This is a board game about train delays. When talking to the designer, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I'll try and find it, from Offcut Games, he lives like 10 blocks from me by Prospect Park. He's a Brooklynite. He made a board game about the train system in New York, and so I had to buy it. I've since played it with Sarah while we were away last week. I really enjoy it. It's goofy. It's only 2-player. It's versus. You have 2 train lines. Your opponent has 2 train lines, and you have to move the commuters along the train line, and wherever they exit, you get that amount of points. When they exit, a tourist gets on. You cannot make a tourist exit. They will ride the line to the end because they want to see it all, and they clog up your lines. There are cards that cause bonuses or delays, and the way you play is you use these cards to either gain Metro cards, basically, so you can make people board, or you shut down other train lines to get access to new Metro cards so you can then board stuff. It's really brilliant, and the way the game ends is if you're the first to 10 points, or if you run out of cards to move people along the train line. And I really love it. It was, I think, $30 at PAX. Maybe it was $35. So it wasn't expensive. It all folds up into one box.
Love that.
It's a really high quality, nice box. It doesn't take up a ton of room. It travels well. I'm glad that I bought something to play Sarah and I have a history of buying board games at PAX Unplugged and then never playing them. Sarah wanted me to get the expansions for Illimat, which is a board game that was a fake board game that the Decemberists created for a music video that then they partnered with a game developer to make a real game, and so it's a real game. We played Illimat once with our friends Rob and Katie, but have not played our copy of it. But I still bought Sarah the expansions, one, because who am I to deny my incredible spouse something she wants, but also it's an inspiration to then go and finally play this game some more. But we have bought several games from PAX Unplugged in the past that still have the shrink wrap on them, and I want to get better about playing them, whether it's us hosting board game nights or bringing them to a board game night. So it was satisfying to get to play Expect Delays, which was a delight, also considering as a born and bred New Yorker who's always frustrated with the train system, to play a board game about it that was less frustrating.
It's nice being able to deal with those little annoyances of day-to-day life in a fictional format that you can actually win.
Yes.
I love this. Something fun about a board game convention, something like PAX Unplugged, is that sharing of things, and is that sharing of games as well. In that way of getting the expansion will encourage you and Sarah to play Illimat, of trying this game out or playing that. It's hard to single player your way through a board game convention. And in the same way that it can be kind of hard to get people to play a multiplayer video game with you, especially at a convention where it's probably you brought a handheld device, everybody needs a copy, et cetera, et cetera. There were, the Mario Kart DSs of the world, but it's a little more hard to organize. A board game, a card game, you can bring your copy and bring other people into it, which is a great way of sharing it and a great way of having some fun experiences. Something fun that I got to do was I actually went to a meetup, one of the more late night ones. I ended up chatting with a content creator, that one blonde nerd, just kind of walking the floor. We got to talking about a bunch of stuff. She also produces ADHD Adventures, a stream that is on Twitch that is neurodivergent, disabled, BIPOC, LGBTQIA, femme, TTRPG content creators playing through a bunch of stuff. And she was hosting a meetup that was, again, a lot of queer, neurodivergent people. And so got to exchange a bunch of business cards. It was the closest I came to schmoozing all weekend. But also, one of the other content creators there, Natalie, who does something called For the Cause events, which is you mentioned Daggerheart. Have you played For the Queen?
I've not yet, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, also from Darrington Press. I'm familiar with it as well, and I'd never played it. Well, Natalie naturally has a very nice deck and was like, well, who wants to play a game? We found a round table, and I played my first game of For the Queen, which is a wonderful storytelling game to play. A lot of cool improv and character work that doesn't require a lot of setup. It can be as big of a table as it needs to be. Folks came and went while we played it. This was a late night event, so we played it until we got kicked out of the room, and then we sat down on the floor outside the room until we got kicked out of the convention center. The nice thing is about the way that For the Queen goes, when it's like, all right, we have to go. All right, cool. Here's the end game card. Let's answer the question. Great. Off we go.
That's awesome.
It was really a lot of fun and reminded me that, that is one of the other cool kind of flip sides on a convention like this, on a setting like this. You only need one copy of the artifact, of the piece, of whatever it is, to include more people. And so as expensive as board games and card games can seem, can actually become if you're not careful, there is, if you play your cards right, pun fully intended, a great return on investment in how you can share that with people.
Well, I think also the difference between PAX Unplugged and other PAXs is that, for the most part, the video games featured at PAX East and West cannot be bought. There are some exceptions. Some of them are on sale either at limited run or some of the sellers like Video Games New York and so on. But for the most part, the broad majority of stuff being shown are demos, new games, games that have yet to release, things like that. That's the point of that convention.
Right.
PAX Unplugged is the opposite. While there are some games that will be demoed that are unavailable, 90% of what's on the floor is available, or previous games are available.
I'd say that. No less than 60, but I hesitate to say 90%.
Fair enough.
There's a game that I've been excited about called Punch Bowl that just ended its Kickstarter. I first played the demo of it 3 PAX Unplugs ago. And they had beautiful pieces for it, and it's very cool, but it's finally now at a point where people can spend money on it, but not yet have it. But you're right. There's something more tangible on this one.
90% is probably a little high, but I would say the ratio is still higher of being able to buy
Definitely.
what's on the show floor. And more importantly, they will always have their previous release, unless it's the indie row and like this is their first game. But for the most part, if the seller has a previous game, even if they're only demoing the new game, they will be selling copies of the previous game. Whereas I feel like for a lot of other developers, like Nintendo has merch and stuff probably, but they're not shilling the latest releases on the show floor.
Right.
Very rarely, they are just letting you demo what's coming. Whereas you'd have to go to a place like Limited Run or one of the other video game retailer booths to actually buy new or old games on the show floor. This, people tend to bring their supply with them. And I think that makes for a more tangible process also of being able to get your hands on pretty quickly the thing that you fall in love with while playing. Even if it's a press copy, a demo copy, or like even an unfinished copy, there is a lot more of that, I feel like, with board games percentage-wise than there is with the video games at those other conventions.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the amount of space they put on the convention floor that is just tables. I mean, some of them are for companies and folks to demonstrate their games, and some is for folks like us that have picked up a game and then being like, well, I'm playing this right now. I'm seeing friends that I don't normally see, and we're all here because we love games. Let's sit down. Let's play Trombone Champ. Let's bust this open. Let's play Illimat.
Yeah, totally. Before we wrap up, I do want to share one of my favorite things that I got to play that weekend, and it's a wrestling board game. So my friend Chris, who I know through Rob and Katie, was talking about while we were walking around, I want a board game based on wrestling. I desperately want one. We sit down to Rowdy Partners. Rowdy Partners is a Western-themed wrestling board game where, for the most part, you are playing in tag teams. And the boards snap together, so you do certain things that affect to unlock each other's moves, special abilities, tokens to do stuff. And it was me and Chris versus Rob and Katie. The characters are designed incredibly. There's one character who is literally a train engine, like the front of a train, with arms and legs.
Amazing.
It was just a blast. It was really fun. Took us about, I think, 40 minutes to finish a match, maybe an hour. It was really fast paced. It was really easy to understand. And it was really a lot of fun. I didn't buy a copy there, but our friend Chris, who said he had already spent his budget, still bought a copy anyway. So I look forward to playing that at future game nights at Rob and Katie's. What I love about not just licensed games, but board games based on other things that are interpreting something, whether it's a skill, a trade, or another form of entertainment, is when they do it well. And Rowdy Partners did it well. It was goofy. It was silly, like you expect some of the best wrestling to be. But it was also frenetic. It moved quick. There was a lot of reactionary stuff you could do. You could change things and screw with things sort of in an Uno card game style fashion. It was really well made and designed and moved quick. Because it's also based like a tag team, when you connect with the opposing team or when you play certain cards, you tag in and change the turn order. Someone goes to the outside of the ring, someone goes on to the inside, and it messes with the turn order. It was a really fun time, but it's always amazing to me when someone can take what something feels like in real life and make it feel that way when you're playing the board game, in the same way that really great video games do that as well with the experience, whether it's fear in a survival horror or, you know, the electricity in a wrestling video game or whatever. Like, I love experiencing that through board games as well, because they're so much more analog, it feels so much more impossible and is kind of mind-blowing every time it happens.
Yeah, those are the sort of very cool experiences. I do love the sheer width and breadth of experiences that analog gaming can get us. Board games, card games, tabletop RPGs. A booth that I always love going to anytime I'm at a gaming convention is Button Shy Games. They make a whole line of games called wallet games. They are all card games that are meant to fit in like a little folding card wallet. Not very big, not terribly expensive, all sorts of different designers and very different kinds of games. And I got a couple of them this time, and I've gotten a few before. They're very fun. One that I'm very excited about is a game called Las Palmas. It is a city building game that is a solo game where you have to draw cards and connect them to make the biggest and best city you can in one hand. Like literally in your hand. If you drop a card, the game is over.
Oh my God.
You are recommended to measure your hand before you start playing the game, so know how wide your hand span is, so that you can properly score yourself on the right curve as far as like your high score. of how well you did, because I have a much bigger hand than Sarah. I have an advantage when it comes to city building in this format.
Yeah.
I've played a round or two. It's very fun. I'm not great at it, but I do love those kinds of dexterity games. And it's one that I can take with me everywhere. I could take this to every convention I go to. Because it's not 52 cards, it is approximately the size of and yet smaller than a deck of playing cards. And so saying, oh, I bought like 4 board games did not take up a lot of space. And I appreciate that.
I love that. I mean, I think also that's something that's newer to board games. Board games in our childhood, I feel like the draw was having 3 to 5 to 8 players to engage in something together. Whereas I feel like there are more and more solo board games now, or solo play for certain games or styles, where even if a game is meant to be multiplayer, there is a solo version or rule set that you can engage in that makes these games viable for someone who maybe can't always go bring it to a friend's house or see a friend to play it, or doesn't have a partner they live with who they can harass all the time to play a board game with them.
Right. And by that same token, from the same line of games, they have the first game that we picked up was a game called In Vino Morte, which can play up to 8 people. It's a social party game that's basically the iocane powder scene from The Princess Bride. Everybody gets a card. Who's got the poison? And figuring that out.
Amazing. I love that.
You take it with you. It's a quick game. It's something you can play in line waiting somewhere. I like those kinds of applications just as much as ones of you need a tabletop space. You need a whole bunch of, the trombone champ. Sometimes the song can end because you run out of trombone space on the table.
That's amazing.
These are things to consider, and not normally things you consider in other kinds of games. These are each unique unto themselves. It's the way that an arcade cabinet can use a device that only that arcade cabinet has, that doesn't convert to home consoles necessarily. It's a fun aspect of gaming, not being beholden to certain traditions, I suppose.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we get to cover it. A big thank you, of course, to ReadPop and the folks over at Stride for providing us with badges so we could cover it as media. I think this format, like the other PAXs, is going to suit this convention better. I think we're going to sprinkle in a little more board gaming as the show goes on. We are been around for 7 to 8 years. I refuse to do actual math. We want to engage more in board game content. We do, we chatted with Courtney about chatting with Alex over at Kess about licensing for board games, especially when it comes to licensing video games, but just generally what it's like to license for a board game. Things like that. We again said that we plan to try and get Jason Anarchy on the show, talk about his games and why humor leads those games and how he ended up with the Trombone Champ license and how that worked out. So things like that. If you enjoy this episode or enjoy board games in general, let us know. Share some of your favorite board games. Were you at PAX Unplugged? What did you see that you liked? We haven't even shouted out all the friends and cool folks that we saw. It was great to get to connect with them. Something that I want to explore as this show continues to grow and go on is branching outside of video game, because there's a lot of aspects to gaming in the modern age beyond just video games. We've tackled stuff like visual novels and like what is a video game? Is it the mechanics or whatever? But I want to go even beyond that and talk more about board games and card games and other stuff that Geoff and I have enjoyed that have been digitized as well, but just are outside the purview of the broad mission statement of this podcast, but I think still fits within our listenership and the stuff that we enjoy as well.
Yeah, and if there are any games of this sort that you think we should be covering, want to talk about, or really kind of lean into the stuff that we've been doing for all of these years on this podcast, let us know. Reach out to us. Get in touch with us. There's so many great ways to find us. We are Fun and Games Pod across all social media that we are currently active upon, which as of this episode is Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you thought of previous episodes, what you'd like us to talk about, and who you'd like us to talk with on future episodes. You can visit certainpov.com and find not only other fantastic Certain POV podcasts, but a permanent invite link to our Discord server where a lot of these discussions begin, continue, where people can post all sorts of things about their tabletop gaming collection. Case does all kinds of deep dives about D&D classes. Right now, I'm very excited about the new Eberron book. I am going to build an artificer. This is just what's going to be happening. I really like Alchemist as a subclass. I know how mechanically weak it is. This isn't why I play D&D. If you like what Matt and I are doing and have the means or desire to support us, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/funandgamespod. There is a free tier, so you don't have to pledge anything to take part in the polls that we'd put up for our next console retrospectives or getting a one-stop shop of everything Matt and I are working on. But we do appreciate those of you that are supporting us, and especially those on the high scoreboard. Today, the high scoreboard is Alex Lavelle, Case Aiken, Daniel Nyden, Sean Bowen, Film It Yourself, Patrick Edwards, Alejandro Alves, Curly Bright, and Chris Copleen. Thank you so much for your support. Please enter your initials. Please roll a 20-sided die and be able to use the number there to add up the letters that you currently have on your tiles. The initials cannot exceed the score denoted by your dice. If you have to re-roll, come see me after.
Also, a special shout out to Case. We did get to see Case briefly at PAX Unplugged. He took the train up for the day. Always great to see Case in person. We appreciate, Case, everything that you do for this pod as well. Geoff mentioned the Discord before. It's a great place to connect with our community. It's been growing hand over fist the whole year, and we're really proud of the conversations and interactions we've been able to have over there. But also, a free way that you can support us, besides joining the Patreon for free, is by going to your podcast platform of choice and rating and reviewing us, whether it's just rating or it allows you to write a review, whatever it is. Adding your thoughts about this pod to those platforms allows us to combat the mighty algorithm and show up in more places for other folks so they can join this incredible community.
Whether you are a huge board game fan, whether this is your first time playing a Euro game turn, don't worry, it'll make sense by turn 3. Or if this is your first episode of Fun and Games, thank you so much for being here. We couldn't do this without you. This is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.
Do you have a gaming subscription service like Xbox Game Pass or a crazy backlog and don't know what to play next? Well, 1H1D might be for you. Join me, Chris, and my college buddy Tom as we play a random game or a requested game for an hour and decide if it's worth playing past that hour. We go over the good, the bad, and maybe some little tidbits about the development you might not have known. Got 30 minutes? Give us a try, and if you like it, throw us a 5-star review. Try something new. You never know what might be your next favorite game.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.